This is Viterbi Voices, your chance to hear stories about research, classes, student life, and more.
Directly from our students, faculty, and other members of our engineering community. All right here at the USC Viterbi School of Engineering.
Oh my goodness, welcome back into Viterbi Voices. This is episode
130.
And we really appreciate you joining us here on this episode where we talk about, on this podcast. Now I don't know what I'm doing. On this podcast related to student life and just overall what's happening here at the Engineering School at USC. As usual, I'm one of your hosts. My name is Paul Ledesma. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Admission at the USC Viterbi School of Engineering.
And my name is Audrey Roberts. I'm a junior studying mechanical engineering here at USC.
And this episode is all about what?
The Associated Students of Biomedical Engineering. This is a professional group on campus, and a few weeks ago they had their national conference in Philadelphia. So I spoke to two students, Maddie and Dominie, who are juniors studying biomedical engineering, who are officers in the student org, about the conference and also just how more generally ASBME helps to build community among the biomedical engineers at USC.
That's awesome. It's a great organization. They do lots of stuff, not only for professional development, but also like their makers competition, stuff like that. I'm sure that gets talked about.
Yeah.
There's some really cool things if you're interested in health in the human body. I hope you appreciate this episode and learn a little bit more about some of the students in biomedical engineering. But before we get into the episode, it should be noted that we're releasing this episode. Today is Sunday, November 24th. This is the Sunday before Thanksgiving. So I hope everyone out there has a fantastic Thanksgiving and that you're enjoying that with friends and family. But more importantly, or I shouldn't say more importantly, that's very disrespectful, but also important is that this coming week, December 1st, is the merit scholarship deadline for the USC application. So if you are a prospective student that is thinking about applying as a first-year applicant, meaning that you are in high school, you have not graduated from high school, and you are planning on applying for the fall 2020. The application deadline is Sunday, and so if you haven't started working on your Common App, you better get going on that. Hopefully, who I'm speaking to out there is those that want to put in some final touches on your application. You want to make sure and get that submitted by December 1st. And so December 1st is the Sunday after Thanksgiving. And you want to make sure that you hit submit on that sometime that day. That's going to be important. Or, maybe a day before, maybe just, being eager beaver and get it in a day early. That's okay too, right? You don't want to wait. You don't want to wait till the last minute. We often get questions, do I have to apply by December 1st? No, but I think it's a good idea because it puts you in contention for all the merit scholarships at USC, going all the way up to full tuition and a couple other smaller ones as well. And some people say, well, what if I got other things, I'm going to have like letters of recommendation that will come in afterward, or, I might take a test afterward. All that's fine. Those things, updates to your application, things that will complete it later on, things that are submitted from other sources can come in later. They should just come in as soon as possible afterwards. So just make sure that you're hitting submit on the Common App no later than the end of December 1st. That's really going to be important. If you are planning on taking any standardized tests in December, there is no guarantee that we will see those test scores before we review your application. So if you are planning on doing that and you think that will be a boost to your application, then go ahead and send it in as quickly as you can, and maybe if you can rush the score. But that said, I will tell you that, every time you take the standardized test, there aren't many changes in test scores, and so I wouldn't worry too much about it. I would just get your application in as best you possibly can. And our application is looking at our application review process is looking at your entire application. It's not about a test score. It's not about a GPA. We want to make sure that you're doing well in courses and that you're prepared for our curriculum. But ultimately, that's not what makes a decision on whether someone should be admitted or not. It's a little different. And hopefully, if you go back on the episodes, we talk about how to get admitted. One of our episodes, what episode number?
127.
127. If you go back to that, listen to that podcast if you're worried about this process. But I think we do a good job of explaining. If you have any questions, give us a call, shoot us an email. All that said, though, this week, we are only in the office Monday, Tuesday, and part of Wednesday. And so the office will be closed for Thanksgiving on the 28th and the 29th. We'll be back in the office on December 2nd. So awesome. That's that. That's the big upfront lesson. But I'll stop talking now and we'll go straight into this episode about the Associated Students of Biomedical Engineering.
Welcome, Dominie and Maddie. I'm super excited to have you guys on the podcast to talk a little bit about the ASBME conference. But first, can you both introduce yourselves?
Yeah, so my name is Dominie. I'm a junior studying biomedical engineering, and I'm currently the vice president of the Associated Students of Biomedical Engineering, or as we call it, ASBME.
And I'm Maddie. I'm a junior studying biomedical engineering with a mechanical emphasis. And this year I'm the Viterbi liaison for the Associated Students of Biomedical Engineering.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So first, can we just do a quick intro of what ASBME is and maybe what your roles specifically are?
So ASBME is a social, professional, mentorship, academic club targeted at building a really strong biomedical engineering community at USC.
Yeah. So as vice president, yeah, I just basically go wherever is needed. That's kind of my role. But one thing, I guess, as an example, I did a research symposium, and this was mainly targeted at underclassmen who are looking for research positions for the 2019-20 school year. And I invited like 4 professors to speak about their research, and it was a great opportunity for these underclassmen to network with them and then potentially get a research position. So that's one example of an event we put on that really, I feel like, benefits the biomedical engineering student body.
We also have 2 big professional events each year. In the spring, we have our corporate dinner, and then in the fall, we have our fall networking night, which I was in charge of this year, and we did it right before the career fair, so students were able to build really strong relationships with recruiters before going into the really difficult recruiting time.
Great. Thank you both. So another big part of most professional organizations at USC is some sort of conference where you can meet with other chapters each year, or some variation of that. And you guys were just recently at the ASBME conference in Philadelphia. Can you just talk a little bit about that and what that experience was like?
Yeah, so it's called the Biomedical Engineering Society Conference, or BMES, and it happens every year, and it takes place in a different state. So this year it was in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania. Next year it's going to be in San Diego. Maddie and I are really excited about that. And so it's mainly research focused, and I say that because there's not a huge industry presence. It's mainly principal investigators, postdocs, PhD students, and undergraduate students, all there to share their research. And so we went to talks from researchers at different universities, and the cool thing is a lot of them are doing stuff that isn't necessarily taking place in the biomedical engineering department here.
Okay, awesome.
And then there's also a huge grad school presence, so it's a really great time for if you're trying to go to grad school in a biomedical engineering, to get a biomedical engineering master's degree or PhD. That's where you go and you meet a whole bunch of recruiters from those schools. And there were also poster sessions, so we had a lot of students presenting. There were probably over 500 posters per day,
Oh my goodness.
and there were 3 days. So you could go through the aisles and see all of the amazing work that people from all over the country are doing.
That's so cool. So what were some of the coolest research you were able to see at the conference?
My favorite thing that I went to was a special session called Engineering Women's Health. And it was super interesting because we don't have anything like that here. And it just kind of touched on some of the issues that are underrepresented within the biomedical engineering field. It was only about 6 professors or PIs, and they do some incredibly interesting things that have to do with women's health. And it was super interesting to see because I see all kinds of, like, biomechanics is all of the time, it's a lot of bones, a lot of, what's the word for doctors who do bones? Oh my God.
Orthopedics?
It's a lot of orthopedics. But it was taking biomechanics and bringing it to a whole different world.
Just like kind of emphasizing women's issues.
Yeah, so like pelvic floor issues. I don't know if this is podcast appropriate. Like, let's see, what else are they talking about? Just like pregnancy and like how your body changes
Right.
when you're having women's health issues. I don't know. It was really interesting to me.
That's super cool. And yeah, like you said, it's good to sort of get a glimpse of research that isn't happening at USC, and maybe you can sort of bring it here yourself.
Yeah.
So what about you, Dominie?
Yeah, one of my favorite talks was by this biomedical engineering professor at Rice, and her whole lab is dedicated to bringing these technologies to countries in Africa, and they're neonatal care technologies. Basically what that means is a lot of babies will have respiratory issues, and so they bring these devices that will kind of help them through those initial conditions when they're first born, and so they have a better chance of survival. And I think it's something that was eye-opening for me, because the U.S. Mortality rate is so much lower than countries in Africa, and it's definitely something important to think about. Thinking about how our technologies can be spread to countries that don't have access. And so, that was definitely my favorite talk. I think it was, like I said, eye-opening.
That's awesome. And so then I'm sure in the poster section, since there were so many, a number of them were from USC, did people from the ASBME chapter at USC get to present some of their research as well?
Yeah, so Helen is in Dominie's lab. So you know more about her research than I do, so go ahead.
Yeah, so she did a poster presentation. Her research is on these nanoparticles. These nanoparticles have some kind of fluorescent property that we can image, and they also will passively settle in tumors. And so she was looking at, how effective these nanoparticles were at accumulating in the tumor, and then when you image it, are we able to see them in the tumor?
Okay. So is she an undergrad or?
Yeah, she's
awesome.
a junior like us.
Wow.
Yeah.
People doing cool things.
Yeah.
I love
it's
it.
really awesome to see undergrads presenting their research. And I think that's one of the really great things about USC is how willing all of these professors are to take undergrads into their labs and train them to a point where they're able to take the research that they've done and present it at a professional conference.
Right. That is awesome. Yeah. And I think all of us have been able to do research as an undergrad here, which is super cool.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So one thing that I think is super interesting about ASBME and the conference in particular is that it's not just professionally focused. You have this research element where you can really learn about emerging research or technologies across the country, and then you have a social element too of all of you guys sort of coming together and having this shared interest. Which I think is really important, because engineering can feel vocational at times almost, because there is such a professional emphasis just because of the nature of our education in that sense. How does ASBME sort of breathe some life into it and build community at USC in that way, if that makes sense? Long-winded question, but
so our organization is intended to build our community and make us stronger and make us friends. So last year I was mentorship and social chair for ASBME. So I was in charge of creating mentorship and social events that were able to strengthen the relationships between students. We did things like we go bowling. We go my favorite event every single year that was really what got me interested in ASBME and introduced me to a lot of my friends was our annual night hike. We go to the Hollywood Hills at 8 p.m. at the beginning of the school year, and we climb to the wisdom tree. It's about
What's the wisdom tree?
A mile and a half, and it's just a tree, and there's a flag, but the flag wasn't there this year. And you just... It's not a difficult hike unless you're like me from the Midwest and are hiking with Dominie and Kim, who are from Hawaii and Washington. And I'm just chugging along and they're running ahead of me. But it's just a really great way to just meet new people in your major. And it's intended for people in ASBME, so people who are involved and passionate about biomedical engineering. So it's a really great way to build community.
Do you have to be a BME major to be a part of ASBME?
No. I think it's intended for biomedical engineers considering the nature of the club, but pretty much anyone who's interested in biotech or just the
biomedical
field,
research.
biomedical research. You don't have to be a biomedical engineer,
Right.
but it helps. Like, we're in classes together, so having the club that has that mentorship aspect, and you're in classes with your friends.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you guys have like a set sort of mentor program?
Yeah,
We do. Yeah. So we pair upperclassmen with underclassmen, and we really tried to revamp this program.
Totally revamped.
Totally better.
Last year, when I was in charge of it, we had probably one upperclassman for 5 underclassmen.
Okay,
so it wasn't as robust, but this year we have so many of our resources focused on this program because we think it's so important that we're up to a 1-to-1 and even a 2 upperclassmen to 1 underclassman ratio in our mentorship program, which is really, really exciting for us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so important because one of the things coming into biomedical engineering, not only that, but coming into college was like I had no idea what was out there. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into because I really didn't have, and this probably is common for a lot of high school students, they don't have the engineering experience prior to college. And so it was really important for me as a freshman to find mentors, and I did find a couple in ASBME my freshman year, and I'm sure Maddie
get formal ones, but you also get informal ones. So and those relationships are just as important.
Just as important, especially this past semester. I was looking for an internship, and so those connections I made my freshman year really ended up paying off.
Yeah. So like, kind of on that, what is the role of a mentor then? Like in the, I guess, formal sense and the informal sense. Like it is maybe perhaps a networking, but also more than that, just kind of someone to go for questions,
Yeah, we're there to do whatever anybody needs. So I just actually got lunch with my mentee on Friday, and we actually have a class together because she's a sophomore and I'm a junior, and like sometimes our classes interact. So we were talking about that, kind of giving her advice on like how to declare an emphasis, what kind of emphasis she would want to declare.
And an emphasis is just kind of like a specified track.
So I have a mechanical emphasis within biomedical engineering, meaning that I take some mechanical engineering classes because like that's what interests me. I want to work with medical devices. So I talked to a whole bunch of my mentors and asked them what they think, and they all recommended this one. So I talked to her about that, good general education classes to take, because we have to take those, and you may as well take a fun one or an interesting one or something. What else did we talk about? Just like...
So just someone to always be there, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Always good to
navigate like course load too, like when to take certain things, which professors to take.
It's critical.
That's definitely important.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So then I guess kind of shifting back to the sort of more professional side, has ASBME helped both of you sort of establish your professional network? I know Maddie had an internship this past summer.
Absolutely, 100%. So my mentor for ASBME was the campus ambassador for the company that I worked for this summer, and she was a really great talking point when I was trying to get my internship. I talked to her at the career fair. Like, she recruited me. So it was someone who I knew and was very comfortable with, and I was able to put forward my best self. And so then this year, I was the campus ambassador for that same company. Like, I followed directly in her footsteps, and I was so excited to be able to extend that comfort, because I then talked to a bunch of my colleagues, my friends, and I feel like they were able to be more comfortable and show their best selves to recruiters.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with that. This is my first semester going through the recruiting process, and I realized how important those, like I said, those connections I made before. So I am interning at a company that my freshman and sophomore year, I met these recruiters like through professional events. Like I met, like Maddie mentioned before, we have 2 big corporate kind of dinners in the school year, and I met these recruiters then, before. And so this year when I went to see them, I already knew their name, they knew me. It was definitely a more comfortable conversation that we had. And then they were able to kind of vouch for me more because they knew me they had kind of a history with me, right?
Right.
And then one of them happened to be both a Viterbi alum, but also an alum of ASBME. So that's also another thing that helps.
And do you guys have like events throughout the year that help maybe freshmen or sophomores or people sort of unfamiliar with the recruiting process get more comfortable with talking to recruiters?
Yeah. So this year we've been doing a workshop series with ASBME. So the first half of this semester we did a career development workshop. So we had, what did we have? We had a resume workshop. We had
interview prep.
Right before the career fair, we had our corporate chair talk about each of the biomedical engineering companies and like what they do, like what products they make, what their mission statements are, what locations they're recruiting for.
That was definitely helpful.
It was super helpful because then you write all that down and you're heads and tails in front of everyone else at the career fair.
So you're gonna have that.
And then I recently hosted an event where I had like 4 current students talk about their prior internships at these like various biomedical companies. And so that was great because I saw like afterwards some like underclassmen were going up and talking to them like, hey, like what could I do to put my best foot forward for next year and stuff like that.
Right.
So
that's awesome. Covers all the bases.
That's the point of our club. It is.
Yeah.
It's a great club. I credit ASBME for a lot of my success within college because it's given me such a great network of people to rely on.
Yeah, I would say both like my research position that I have at USC right now is through like an ASBME event. Another thing too is like this is the first year that I've really realized my social circle has kind of shifted, and I hang out with BME people a lot more because we're in classes all the time together, and so
we travel as a pack.
So having both classes together and this ASBME, like we've become so close, and it really helps you get through those classes that might be tougher. I can't even begin to say how helpful it is to have those people with you throughout.
Right. It kind of almost takes the friendship outside of the classroom to more than just someone you study.
You don't just study with them. There's so much more.
That's awesome. Well, I'm super excited for all the exciting stuff you guys have planned. Is there anything coming up? I know you guys just got back from the conference, right?
Yeah, conference. One thing we should plug is our Megathon.
Oh, yes.
True. Yeah. We should talk about that.
Yes, that is our signature event of the year, and we are just in the beginning stages of planning it. It takes place in February. And it's a 30-hour undergraduate medical device design competition. So you're presented, there's usually like 12 to 15 teams of 4 or 5 students, and you're presented with a real-world challenge, and then you have 30 hours to brainstorm, to use computer-aided design to make your product, and then actually like prototype it. So it's a whole ordeal, and then at the end you present your product to the judges, and then there's like first, second, and third place. I did it my freshman and sophomore year. Probably one of the most like memorable experiences at USC. Really exposed me to what an engineer does.
And the great thing about it is like you don't need to have any of that technical knowledge. The teams are half underclassmen, half upperclassmen. So you're there involved with the design process. Even if you don't know the physical coding, you're still able to participate.
So do you guys like make the teams, or can people
You can sign up either as an individual or as a full team.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, so my freshman year I just went in as an individual because I didn't know many upperclassmen, and it worked out like really well. I like loved. I got close to my team. Yeah. And then sophomore year I ended up creating a team. Yeah. So it worked.
And it's open to everyone, correct? Because I know
mechie
people.
Oh, yeah. A lot of mechie.
We love it when people who are biomedical engineers come in as well.
Yes. Like my freshman year, we had...
It's so much more, like, well-rounded.
Yeah. My team, my freshman year, had a mechie, EE, computer science, and 2 BMEs.
Sounds
So
like a
definitely,
dream
this
team.
interdisciplinary,
Especially because
Group
biomedical
work.
engineering is such an interdisciplinary field.
Yes.
Having people with those extra technical skills is great for a design project like
Which
that.
probably also realistically mirrors how it occurs
Yeah.
in industry as
Yeah.
well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You know, you're not
You're
gonna have
not-
a team of 10 biomedical engineers. You're gonna have a team.
Like this summer for my internship, I was on a team with probably, they told me, it was like a couple of mechanical engineers, a couple industrial systems engineers, and a couple of biomedical engineers, all with these different knowledge sets, and we were doing the same,
Right.
working on the same thing.
So with an event like the Makeathon, you can sort of start to develop the language
Yeah.
of communicating between engineers,
Yeah.
which can be challenging,
Yeah.
but it's definitely a skill that's good to
Yeah.
develop now. All right, well, thank you guys so much. I'm
Thanks. Audrey.
super
Yeah.
glad to have learned all this amazing stuff about ASBME.
All right, that was fun.
Very cool. What was your favorite thing about this? Basically, what was your favorite thing that you heard about biomedical engineering and ASBME in this episode?
Yeah, I think one thing that sort of surprised me is that the ASBME conference is actually research-based, not
Oh,
necessarily like networking-based. So
It's different than most others.
yeah, most conferences are kind of, they have a career fair, maybe they have some speaker panels, but they're primarily professionally focused. And I think it's really cool that the ASBME conference is an opportunity to really learn about emerging technology in the field. So Maddie and Dominie both talked about some interesting research they saw at the conference. And I think that is sort of true of the organization in general. It's not just a professional organization. It's really an organization that is a group of people with shared interests, and it's so much more than networking.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think it's a fantastic episode. So if all of you that are looking at biomedical engineering or thinking about technology and engineering related to health in the human body, I recommend you check out our website, viterbiadmission.usc.edu/BME. To learn more about biomedical engineering and understand it as a discipline and see whether that's right for you. Plus, the Viterbi Voices website has a number of different students that are studying biomedical engineering. They blog about it. They have a lot of background on it too, so that's a great resource for you. And one final reminder, if you have not yet finished your application, you have a week. So December 1st is the scholarship deadline if you want to be considered for merit scholarships. Of course, the final deadline is going to be January 15th. But I always recommend if you can get in by December 1st, that's a good idea because that puts you in consideration for merit-based scholarships. So get the application in. You can go to viterbiadmission.usc.edu, click on the apply link, or go to admission.usc.edu, or just go to commonapp.org and find USC. Other than that, happy Thanksgiving, y'all.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving. Thanks.